Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my beautiful being me sisters and my beautiful sisters from everywhere, from wherever you are. My name is Tasneem Ghauri and I'm coming to you here from my home in Milton, alhamdulillah, and I'm going to be sharing with you, inshallah, something that I hope will be very beneficial and very useful to us for these last 10 days of Ramadan. Inshallah, I'll be sharing with you a Ramadan reminder. It's always a pleasure to be here with my Being Me team, with these amazing women who continue to inspire me and, with their creativity, with their energy. Subhanallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put lots of barakah and lots of khair in all of the amazing work that they're doing, all of the initiatives that they are starting, and with subhanallah, with how flexible they are being, especially with all of this, stuff that's been going on with this coronavirus, etc. So, inshallah, let's get started. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man istanna bi sunnatihi ila yawmiddin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. So we begin always, of course, by praising Allah, and we send peace and blessings on His beloved Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and everyone who follows him until the last day, which is, inshallah, all of us, me and you. So I wanted to start by talking about something that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he advised Aisha radiallahu anha, and then I wanted to kind of continue on from there and derive some important lessons from this reminder that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or this advice that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave to his wife Aisha radiallahu anha. So when it came to the last 10 nights of Ramadan, 10 days and nights of Ramadan, but particularly the nights, Aisha radiallahu anha, she asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what type of worship should we do? What should I say, right? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he informed her of a dua that many of us, we already know. He said to say, Allahumma innaka afuwan tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. Allahumma innaka afuwan tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. Oh Allah, you are al-afu, the one who obliterates sins. Innaka afu tuhibbul afu. You love to forgive sins, to obliterate sins, to get rid of them. So do that for my sins, right? Allahumma innaka afu tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. So erase, obliterate, get rid of all of the sins that I have been doing and continue to do, and most likely will continue to do until Allah takes away my soul. The reason why I wanted to, or what I wanted you to pay attention to from this dua, is the fact that it highlights another aspect of our worship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us as well. And that is something that Allah Himself mentions in several places in the Quran. And I'm going to recite to you some of the verses here, and you'll see, inshallah, how they connect with this dua of Aisha that the Prophet ﷺ gave to Aisha to use during the last 10 nights of Ramadan. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in Surah Al-A'raf, in verse 180, He says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولله الأسماء الحسنى فادعوه بها وذروا الذين يلحدون في أسمائه سيجزون ما كانوا يعملون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, and to Allah belongs all of the attributes of perfection. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. So, فَدْعُوهُ بِهَا. Make dua using them. And keep away from those who distort the meanings of His attributes and names. And they shall be requited. They will be compensated or given the consequences of what they used to do. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also says in another verse, in Surah Al-Isra, verse 110, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, قُلِ ادْعُوا اللَّهَ أَوِ ادْعُوا الرَّحْمَنَ أَيَّمَّا تَدْعُوا فَلَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى ولا تجهر بصلاتك ولا تخافت بها وابتغ بين ذلك سبيلا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, قُلِ ادْعُوا اللَّهَ أَوِ ادْعُوا الرَّحْمَنِ. Call upon Allah or call upon Ar-Rahman. أَوِ ادْعُوا اللَّهَ أَوِ ادْعُوا الرَّحْمَنِ. But whichever name you call upon Him by, then to know that to Him belong all of the most perfect names and attributes. فَلَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. Then Allah also says after this, don't be too loud in your prayer, but don't speak it in too low a voice, but follow a way that's in between. And again, of course, we know in many other places in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions, again in Surah Al-Taha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa lahul asma'ul husna. Allah, la ilaha illahu. Allah, there is no one worthy of worship except Him, and to Him belong all of the attributes of perfection, all of the best names and attributes. And the reason why I think you can sort of kind of see my thought process now, that you've heard these verses and you've heard the meanings of these verses, but the reason why I mentioned the dua that the Prophet ﷺ gave to Aisha radiallahu anha and then mentioned these verses was to show you that this dua that the Prophet ﷺ gave to Aisha radiallahu anha, it is an expression of this command of Allah that He's giving in these verses when He says to Allah belongs all of the most beautiful names and attributes, so use them in your dua. So call on Him by using these names. And if you look at this dua that the Prophet ﷺ gave to Aisha, that he told her to repeat during these last 10 nights, it begins by affirming one of the names of Allah. Allahumma innaka afu. Oh Allah, like you are afu, al-afu. You are the one who forgives. And even if you look at the translation of al-afu and what it actually means, because we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also al-ghafur. He forgives sins, right? And He's afu as well. So there obviously is some difference between these meanings, right? So even if you look into the definition of what does al-afu mean and the type of forgiveness that it is, even if you look into that, you will really see the wisdom behind why the Prophet ﷺ chose this particular attribute. But the point that I wanted to mention or highlight was simply that the dua that He gave to her as a prescription for her to use during this night, it began by taking one of the names of Allah. First of all, affirming it, saying it to Allah, innaka afu, oh Allah, you are this, and you love to forgive, so forgive me. And this is exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do when He mentions in the Quran, the verses that I just recited, that whatever, that Allah has all the perfect names and attributes, so use them in your dua. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, call upon Allah, awid'u Allah, awid'u Rahman, right? If you call upon Allah, if you call upon Ar-Rahman, all of the most beautiful names belong to Him. And so, what lesson that I derive from this, or what this teaches me, is that this same prescription that the Prophet ﷺ used, or this same method that the Prophet ﷺ used to teach this dua to Aisha, to give this dua to her, if you look at that, the way that the dua is phrased, that there's nothing that stops us from looking and learning and seeking to learn all of the names of Allah and trying to use these in our dua. Because when you talk about the purpose of your life or the purpose of your existence, and you say that, well, you know, my purpose of my existence is وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. The purpose of my existence is to worship Allah. And then you say, you know, I pray and I fast and I do all of these things. And I worship Allah and I say, you know, I ask Allah for things. But when you talk about intimately knowing someone, or when you talk about doing something for someone, it implies that you have a great knowledge about this person that justifies you doing all of these things for them. Right? That's usually what it implies. Even like in everyday life, like I'm doing this for my teacher because my teacher is qualified in this subject, and this, you know, that thing. So I'm writing this essay, and the teacher is going to correct it, etc., because they're qualified to do so, right? The idea is that you're doing these things for someone that you have knowledge about them, and that's why you're doing those things for that person. But when it comes to Allah, we are supposed to dedicate our entire lives to Allah, right? Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. All of our living and all of our waking hours and our sleeping hours, everything is supposed to be dedicated to Allah. But we have to know who that Allah is. You have to know all of His names and attributes. You have to be able to understand and have an intimate knowledge of who He is to be able to truly have more meaning and more power behind and really get something out of the worship that you're doing, rather than it just becoming something ritualistic, rather than it becoming something that's just habitual. It becomes something that it changes you, that continuously motivates you, that reaches a place very, very deep inside of you, because it's coming from a place of deep, deep understanding. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he said that in a famous hadith, where he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has 99 names, and whoever learns these, man ahsaha, whoever learns these, then they will enter Jannah. And what is meant, when the scholars looked at this hadith and they explained what is meant by this ahsaha, like how is it, so that does that mean that if I just take a list, the same way I would memorize Surah Fatiha, the same way I would memorize the surahs or the du'as that I need to recite in my salah, if I just take a list that I have of 99 names of Allah and I memorize that, that's going to get me into Jannah? Is that what it means? And of course, anyone, with any bit of common sense would realize that can't be what it means. It has to be something else. So what the scholars have taught us is that what it means is that if you look at every single name of Allah and every single attribute that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, there's an element in it that has something to do with for a lot of the names of Allah, there's an element of it that has something to do with our lives as well, right? For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is As-Sami'. He is the one who hears everything. He has the perfect hearing, whereas me and you can only hear up to a certain distance. We can only hear certain sound levels. We cannot hear the same things that a dog's ears can hear or a dolphin's ears can hear. Our hearing is deficient, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hearing is perfect. But this attribute that Allah has of hearing, we also have this attribute of hearing. And so when you look at all of the different attributes, you look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the most perfect hearing. He doesn't miss anything, and we also have the ability to hear. So what that does is it helps you to connect with Allah, first of all. It helps you to realize that, well, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can hear everything and His hearing is perfect, the same way I can hear whispering from the other room or something, then that must mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hears everything that I say, hears everything that that I'm thinking, and hears all of the secrets that I might whisper, or even like the whisperings of my heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of all of those things. And then, well, I can hear as well. I have the ability to hear. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala must want me to hear and listen to things that are only good for me, and to seek out listening to things that are beneficial for me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to use my hearing in a good way, in a beneficial way, in a useful way. And so you start to connect with the attribute that you have as well. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has this attribute of hearing, and you also have the attribute of hearing, and you start to try to raise your standard. Basically, you are raising the standard of of how your personality is, and of how you are, and the abilities that you have. You're creating like a high standard for yourself to aspire to. You're giving yourself something to aspire to. And that's just one of the benefits of learning the names of Allah. But this is what was meant, that when you do this with all of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and attributes, that Allah is the seeing, Allah is the hearing, Allah is the forgiver, Allah is the one who provides, Allah is the one who gives gifts, Allah is the one who, He is Al-Alim, He's the one who has knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Latif, the gentle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, the merciful, right? He has all of these amazing attributes, and we have a capacity to also show and demonstrate and bring these attributes out in us in the best way possible. And that's what was meant by whoever memorizes the names, or whoever learns the names of Allah. will enter Jannah, one of the meanings is that when you start to, your life becomes transformed because you're looking at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names in a way that becomes personal to you. Not that Allah is like that and I'm like this, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Allah is like that, and I can raise my standard and I can try to make myself better in the qualities and the abilities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created me with. And another thing that comes from learning the names of Allah as well, and this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us as well. He wants us to be able to connect with Him. He wants us to know Him, which is why He revealed His names to us in the Quran. So many times we're reading in the Quran, which we've been doing this whole entire month of Ramadan. We've been reading the Quran, and so many verses end with Inna Allah Ghafurur Rahim, Inna Allah Shadidul Iqab, like so many different names of Allah that verses end with. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself is seeking us out. He's actually seeking us out and letting us know who He is and telling us about Himself. And then He tells us, this is the best way for you to make your du'as more meaningful and to make your connection with me and your communication with me more meaningful and more powerful. It has to come from a place of knowledge. It has to come from a place of knowing who it is that you're asking from, right? And we do this for everything in our lives. When we want to ask someone something, we make sure that the person we're asking has the ability to give us what we're asking for. So that's why when you say Allahumma innaka afu, then you say, oh Allah, you're the one who's al-afu. You can obliterate my sins. So obliterate my sins. You have the capacity of doing it. If someone wasn't able to, lend you money or help you, help you with your garden or something, then why would you go and ask that person, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants us to get to know Him so that we realize that He's capable of all the things that we want to ask Him for. And so when we're making our du'as in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, I would really encourage all of you to find at least maybe make a list of 10 names of Allah or 15 names of Allah that relate to things that are meaningful to you or something that you are searching for, that you need. For example, if you want to do better at school or something, then call upon Allah who is Al-Alim. Allah is Al-Alim, the one who has the most knowledge. And you also have the ability to seek knowledge and to pursue knowledge. So ask Allah who is Al-Alim, oh Allah, help me in my pursuit of knowledge, my pursuit of beneficial knowledge. Ask Him for that, right? So maybe one thing that we can do, and I suggest that you do, is that if you don't already know so many of the names of Allah, then search out and research, at least 10 names of Allah that you can use during these last 10 nights of Ramadan to take your du'as to a level that would come from a place that is a place of knowledge, a place of it's not just surface, it's something very deep, very meaningful, very powerful. And what it will help you to do as well, it will add conviction to your du'a as well. When you start to ask Allah and you start to say the name of Allah first, like you praise Him with the thing that you're asking Him about, like you say, oh Allah, Anta al-Alim, you are Al-Alim. So grant me the ability to continuously, or help me in my ability to seek knowledge. What it does is that before you even say the thing that you want to ask Him for, it does something in your heart. It adds a conviction. It adds a sense of hope, a sense of reassurance and peace that inshallah whatever I'm asking for will be given to me, even before you say the thing that you want to ask for. So find 10 names of Allah, find 15 if you already know some, or even 20, maybe 10 every night or 5 every night for the last 10 nights, and make a dua that is specific to that name or that attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like the Prophet ﷺ, he gave this dua to Aisha, Allahumma innaka afu, tuhibbul afwa, fa'fu anni. We do this when we're sick as well. Allahumma anta shafi, ishfini. Oh Allah, you are a shafi. So you're the one who has the ability to cure, so cure me. So you can do this with other names of Allah. Oh Allah, I have trouble, maybe I watch too much, Netflix, and I watch too much videos or things that I'm not supposed to watch, and I really want to try to change that habit. Allah is Al-Basir. Allah is the one who sees, His vision is perfect. So you ask the one whose vision is perfect to help you to take your, the things that you look at, to take it to a higher level and to purify it and to make your eyesight only look at things that are good and only witness things that are good and try to look at things that are good. When you start to think of it in that way, then your du'as start to have a little bit more oomph to them. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He told us in these verses, and He commanded us to do this, that, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. All of the most beautiful names and attributes belong to Allah. Use them in your dua, just like the Prophet ﷺ used to use them in his dua, just like he taught us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is one of the greatest names of Allah. May Allah, and it encompasses every other name and attribute of Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us to learn more about Him and to connect with Him on a very deep level, inshallah, this Ramadan, and for us to be able to carry it through the rest of the days of the year when Ramadan is, the beauty of Ramadan is no longer here. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always keep us in good company. As being me sisters, we all know that what the blessings of good company is. We know what it's worth. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, answer our du'as during these last 10 nights. May He bring us out of it better than when we entered it, inshallah. And may He bring all of us together soon, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me for anything that I said that was wrong. Anything I said that was good was from Him. Anything I said that was wrong was from myself and from shaitan. May Allah make us from amongst those who listen to a speech and take the best of it, inshallah. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And in case I don't see you on Eid, Eid Mubarak!